Hi, hope everybody's doing okay. So in this first video, what I'm going to do is go through the homework with you. Okay, the homework that you should have found in the drive. Okay. So the first thing was the writing. That was on page 65 of your book, and it was the exam task about writing an essay. So if you send them to me, if you haven't done already, and I'll correct them for you. Okay, and then the next thing we'll have a look at is the phrasal verb homework. Okay, so this was the phrasal verbs activity, and don't forget you can find the hard copy in the first 2020 folder. So in the first exercise, the phrasal verb that we used for postponed was put off, okay? And if you can see here, I've also reminded you of another two phrasal verbs related to time that we've seen in the past. So if we want to say that an event was cancelled, we can say the event was called off. And if the event is moved to an earlier time than was originally planned, we could say the event was brought forward. Okay, so those are just another two phrasal verbs related to time. Looking at number 2, so instead of refused, here we use the phrasal verb she turned down his offer of help. Remember that turn down can also be used related to the volume of something. Okay, you turn down the radio, you decrease its volume. Looking at number 3 now, we had don't drink that milk, it's gone bad. And here the phrasal verb gone off. Okay, I've just put a note here. The other meanings of go off. So an alarm can go off when it rings, and also a bomb goes off, meaning that it explodes. Okay, moving down to number 4, I think probably this shouldn't have presented any problems. I'm taking care of, so I'm looking after my sisters. Number 5, she had a brilliant idea. She came up with a brilliant idea. So remember that we use this one particularly talking about ideas or an invention or something like this. Number 6, so here the key was she found some old photos by chance. Okay, so underline the idea of by chance. So this phrasal verb is she came across something. You can also come across a person in the street, for example, if you meet them by chance. Number 7 was she inherited a lot of money. This was another phrasal verb with come. So she came into a lot of money. Number 8, so to recover from something, the phrasal verb to get over. Here I've given the example of an illness, the flu, but remember it can also be kind of like some kind of traumatic event, maybe mentally. So, for example, you get over being left by your boyfriend. You get over a relationship that has finished. Okay, and then in number 9, so if you avoid punishment for something, you get away with it. So here, the robber got away with his crime. Okay, he didn't receive any punishment. Let me look, just open. Okay, so this was continuing the same exercise. So number 10, we had, I can't tolerate. There's a mistake here. That noise is, driving me crazy. I can't tolerate it any longer. So tolerate, to put up with. Okay. Remember, these two here, they're not phrasal verbs, obviously, but they're just alternative expressions to speak about something that you hate or that you can't tolerate. So you could say, I can't stand it, and also, I can't bear it. Moving on to number 11, so you should stop smoking. This one's easy. We've seen it many times before, so give up smoking. Number 12, maybe a bit tricky. Sheila is always criticising her son. So if you criticize someone, the phrasal verb here is to get at someone. Children often say to their parents in England, will you stop getting at me? Will you stop criticizing me for everything that I do? Number 13. So this was the example I showed you also before. The alarm rang, so the alarm went off at 5 o'clock. Number 14, we've seen this several times in the past. So if you leave for a destination, you set off for it. Number 15. So here you had 3 in one sentence. So you had, I really admire my brother. Remember, when you admire someone, you look up to them. And remember also the opposite here, to look down on. Okay, that's with the opposite meaning. Here, he's raised his kids alone. So he's brought up. This was the phrasal verb. And finally, since his wife died, so the phrasal verb that you can use for died is to pass away, also to pass on, you may have found. So they're both fine. Okay, so let's move on now to the other part of the homework that was these sentence transformations. Now, I know this is the part that we find quite difficult in the exam, so I'll be trying to give you more of these just to keep practicing. You'll see that the same structures tend to come up again and again. Okay, so it's a good way to get used to practicing all of this grammar, these structures. So if we look at number 1, this, for example, is a structure that we've seen in the past. So we're changing this active sentence into a passive, okay, into a passive, but using this impersonal form. So Steve is believed to have stolen the money, okay? We can see this in other situations. For example, speaking about an event, the event is believed to be or is thought to be the biggest of its kind. Okay, so this is a common structure, often in written English, in newspapers. Okay, number 2, we can see another passive form here, this time a bit more simple, a bit more straightforward. So we have the strong winds blew down, so we're speaking about the simple past. So in the passive form, our verb to be is in the simple past. And we've got the past participle, blown. Okay, and then the rest of the sentence remains the same. Sentence 3. So here we've got the form have enough plus a noun, so have enough money. We have to transform it with using the word to, and remember we saw last lesson, to is followed by an adjective. So we have the computer is too expensive. For him is optional. Remember, you have to use between 2 and 5 words in these sentence transformations. Okay, let's look at number 4. Okay, so here the structure for giving advice, first of all. So he says you should start a new hobby. So we can see the doctor advised. And here we've got the phrasal verb to take up, okay, which we've seen in the past is the phrasal verb that we use when we want to speak about beginning a new hobby or a new sport. Let's look at number 5. I think this one was fairly easy. There wasn't a lot to transform in this case. So they arrived at 10:30 and now it's midday. So we've been waiting for more than, or you could say for over 1 hour. Okay. I need to let's change the image. Not this one first of all. Let's go back to the top of the screen. Oh no. Here we are. So I've found the right page. So we've got here number 8. Sorry about the mistake that I noticed afterwards. So this structure here we saw when we did the lesson about passives. Remember, to have something done or to get something done. So in this case, the answer is we had our kitchen decorated last year. Okay, so obviously it's a passive form because it's not we who decorated our kitchen, it's decorators. Okay. In number 9, so this is the classic regret. So speaking about regret, you would have to use the past perfect, okay? Because wish, like we saw during the last meet. So we're speaking about a past situation here. I regret not speaking to Marge. And so in our wish clause, we have to use the past perfect. So I wish I had spoken to Marge. Number 10, we'll see this later in today's lesson as well, that when you have the verb suggest, it's always followed by the ing form. In fact, we've seen this before as well, speaking about giving advice and giving suggestions. So here, correct answer, Anne suggested going to the cinema. Number 11, so when you see the word advice, this should scream to you, second conditional. And in fact, the answer that you have to use, if I were you, I would talk to my parents. Okay, now moving on to the last slide. Okay, this is the right one. So here we've got Barry wasn't strong enough. So strong, the adjective, which in the sentence we have to transform into the noun. Okay, so be careful of the spelling here. The GTH is often a mistake that people make. So Barry didn't have enough strength to lift the box. Number 13. This is another phrasal verb. So the phrasal verb that we use when we speak about starting or founding or establishing a company is set up. Okay, so here not only a phrasal verb, but also transformation to a passive form. So we see the company was set up. We're speaking about the simple past, started. So the company was set up in 1997. Number 14, we've got our word here, keen, as a substitute for like. Okay. Some of you may have written Jean is keen on Simon. We need to be a bit more cautious because we've got here, I think. So it's not a fact. It's not something that we're sure about. So to express the idea of think, we'll use seems. So to be is optional. You can say Jean seems to be keen or Jean seems keen on Simon. Okay. Number 15. So this is like a fixed expression, to be in charge of, which is when you are responsible for a particular department. Okay, so here we've got, they put me in charge of foreign sales. Number 16, we're nearly there. So obviously here the expression to have a good time or to have a great time with the same meaning as enjoyed. You could also say had a wonderful time, had a brilliant time. They're all fine. And number 17, there were a lot of active and passive transformations in these exercises. So here we've got the active form of the present continuous. Okay, so when we transform the sentence, we need to make sure that we use the present continuous form of be, so is being, plus the past participle opened. Okay, here obviously we're using the present perfect to describe a future event tomorrow afternoon because it's something that is an appointment. It's already arranged. It's written in someone's diary. Okay, so that's, remember, why we use the present perfect in this case. Okay, that's it. Let me know how you got on with those exercises that I gave you for homework. If you have any questions, then let me know. Okay.